All right, Sarah Kustok joins us here on Big Board Sports. Yes, network analyst for Brooklyn Games, as we told you, making her the first and only woman handling the analyst duty solo for an NBA team. And Sarah joins us here on Big Board Sports on 104.5 The Team ESPN Radio. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it. And congrats. How does that make you feel, that last line that I read there, the only woman handling the analyst duties solo for an NBA team?
It's special. It's special. And I've talked about this quite a bit over the last week, but I think there's a fair balance that I always feel with it of just wanting to show up and do your job and be judged on the job you do and the competence that you have, man or woman. But I love the idea of, just the changing perception about females being in roles that maybe weren't as customarily seen, and like the idea of the next generation, the young girls, young boys growing up, to have an opportunity to really open up their eyes to different possibilities of what they can do. So it's special, it's cool, but also a lot of responsibility as well.
Yeah, well, no doubt about that. Well, congrats on that, Sarah. There are a few Brooklyn Net fans here in the capital region, I'm sure.
We know one of the biggest ever.
We certainly work with a huge
Roger,
Brooklyn Net fan.
I hope you and Chris are two of those. Hopefully that will grow.
Well, I'm from New Jersey, Sarah, so I have that kind of emotional attachment to the New Jersey Nets, and I carry it over to Brooklyn a little bit. But we work with at a TV station here locally as well, and our 11 o'clock producer DVRs every single game. And when he gets home a little after midnight, goes home and watches every single game start to finish, even back whatever year it was, 2013 or whatever year it was, Raj, when they won 9 games or whatever. Yeah. Every single game, the guy's as dedicated as it gets.
Yeah.
You need to give him my email. I'm going to need critiques after if he's watching every game. I'm going to need a critique sheet on the broadcast.
Well, he probably would love doing that, and
you don't want that, Sarah.
Yeah. Well, no, you'll be fine, because let me tell you something, and I'm not kidding. He watches every game, and it doesn't make any difference, Sarah, what the win-loss record is. He is there. Speaking of that, let's just throw the Brooklyn thing out there first. How bad is Brooklyn going to be next season?
I'm going to twist that around, and I understand that I cover the team. I really am positive about the direction that they're moving. And I think that's twofold. One, you pick up a guy like D'Angelo Russell, who I know the first 2 seasons with the Lakers probably didn't go as he had planned, being the number 2 overall pick. But the type of talent that he's already shown in the gym, his motivation to have a fresh start, another playmaker on the floor. You got to hope that Jeremy Lin can stay healthy this year. You bring in a shooter like Alan Crabb. I've heard tremendous things about the jumps that Karis LeVert has made. And I'm a strong believer in Kenny Atkinson, the system that he put in, the way it plays to their personnel. I really think you got guys moving in the right direction. On the flip side, the bottom half of it is just so bad. It's really just been so weakened, given how many players have moved out to the Western Conference and some of the changes and moves this crazy offseason. So I'm optimistic. And I'm not sure what that ceiling may be, but I do think there's something to be said when you have a group of guys, which we saw last year, who will actually play hard every night, because you don't always see that in every NBA team.
Sarah Kustok with us here on Big Board Sports, ESPN Radio 104.5 The Team. And you can find Sarah on Twitter, very simply, at Sarah Kustok. Sarah, with the trade of Carmelo Anthony, and I know Knicks fans are going to laugh when I suggest the battle for New York between Brooklyn and New York, but which team would you say is in a better position to win in the next 3 or 4 years, seeing as how obviously both franchises are going through rebuilds?
Yeah, I could probably make a case for either team. I'm not as closely tied in with the Knicks, so I think a lot of what I see is what many of us see and watch as outsiders. And I think it'll be interesting to see, with the departure of Phil Jackson, Steve Mills back in the reins, and Scott Perry, who I have so much respect for, and who really has just had a ton of respect around the league, and also the job that he was starting to do in Sacramento. But I think it's going to be interesting to see what exactly they're going to do in building around Porzingis. What type of players are they going to be able to put next to him? I know they like their bigs in Hernan Gomez. Enes Kanter, I'm a big fan of. I mean, the fact they got him and a decent piece like Doug McDermott back from the Melo trade. But I'm interested to see what other young guys, if that's the direction they're going, or what other type of talent, what other style of play. We've heard so much about the triangle the last couple seasons. You know, how does Jeff Hornacek change things? What does he want to do offensively, defensively? Like that'll be, to me, that's the interesting part about the Knicks, is what exactly are they trying to do, and what's their plans and strategy. And again, I'm watching like an outsider like the rest of us, and I think with the Nets, they've got a young core. Like, they've got guys who now they know they want to build around, they know the style they want to play, the up-tempo pace, the free-flowing motion type of offense. And so, to me, there's the vision you see, but it's going to take some time. They picked up a few draft pieces with those trades this offseason. They finally have a first round and 2 second rounds next season. But how can Sean Marks continue to be creative, given the fact that they really don't have a lot of picks?
Mm-hmm. Susan, what about the power in the East now? Do you still have Cleveland number one, even though Boston has obviously done quite a bit?
I do. I think the East, like, this is going to be awesome to watch, because I think when you got LeBron James on Cleveland, I think that, to me, is a no-brainer that they're still at the top. And even though I know it came out word that Isaiah Thomas would likely be back around January, and if that holds true. But I think, their pickups of Jay Crowder that they have, I mean, I think you got a handful of other different guys that bring a little bit more a defensive, power that they didn't have before. You got to expect Kyle Korver will have a better season coming back. I think Derrick Rose, he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder. Can he, do the things he wasn't able to do in New York last season? But I still think, between Kevin Love, LeBron James, Tristan Thompson, you still got a core that understands how to win, and I would bet on them anytime.
Sarah, what are your feelings on, and I'll just use the lazy term, super team. What are your feelings on the super teams in the NBA, whether or not it's good for the sport?
I don't think to me, it's not black and white. I don't have strong opinions on that. Like, I think, in many senses, it's been fun to watch. Mm-hmm. To me, Golden State, and of course they're stacked with stars, and many people had said, oh, it's boring to watch them. They're going to win. They're going to roll through the playoffs, which they did, and on through the finals. They play beautiful basketball, though. So for me, as a basketball purist, and loving to see the game played in such a really just beautiful, flowing manner, like, I love watching them play. And even if they're beating teams by 20 or 30, to me, it's special. It's special to watch the way that they play together. I think it's going to be interesting. Like, you go down to Houston, Chris Paul, James Harden playing together. How are they going to mesh? To watch Oklahoma City, I mean, speaking of Melo, like, how does Melo and Paul George then match with Russell Westbrook and what he was able to do? And you can kind of go down the list. But I'm all for it. I think I like the idea of these athletes having their right when they're in free agency to make choices of who they want to play with, and the places where they want to play, not just the other players, but the organization itself, the cities they want to live in. And to me, I think it just makes for more storylines and more fun to watch how these elite level players mesh.
And Sarah, one more from me. And for those who don't know, Sarah was a great hooper out of the state of Illinois, played at DePaul, knows the game as well as anybody. And clearly the Yes Network acknowledged that. Doris Burke is going to be bestowed a huge honor as well. I know she's going to get a regular full-time gig with ESPN that they expect to announce this week, doing regular season games and postseason games as Doug Collins has moved on. But Sarah, what would your advice be to young broadcasters, and I guess particularly females, about the comments? And by that, I'm sure you know what I mean. How do you block out some of the noise being a female broadcaster trying to find success in the world of sports?
I think when it comes to that, and maybe I've been lucky, and I've told this story a couple times, so I hate to keep repeating it. When I grew up, and I guess it means I'm that old now, when I was in grade school, middle school, like, there weren't girls' basketball teams. so I had to try out with the boys' teams, play with the boys' teams. In many cases, I was in playgrounds or gyms or places like that where I was the only girl. And I think from an early age, it was something you become unfazed by. And for me, I think it's all about earning your job, earning your role, whether you're on a court, on a field, doing a job in front of the camera or behind the camera. Know your stuff, and maybe there's a higher level of scrutiny or critique, but that's all a part of it. So be more prepared, be more ready to understand there's going to be people that have some negative comments to say, and try and take them all with a grain of salt. Don't, get too high. You're going to get a lot of praise, and that's great, but on the flip side, you're going to get the same amount of critique. And I'm sure you guys here, I tell a lot of people, and Roger and Chris, I'm sure you guys know this, if you're going to be in the media, you're going to be in the eye of the public. So people are often going to have a lot of different opinions. Some are not always kind. And I think that's just a part of something you have to accept and have thick skin and, just be able to let that roll off your back and still know at the end of the day, you put in the work, you put in the preparation to do the best job that you could. And if you have a bad day, you got to be ready to come back better the next day. So, and I think for young females out there, that's why I like, to your point, in the beginning about this role and about this opportunity, for me, it's all about making sure I do a good enough job so those behind me get afforded these same type of opportunities. And hopefully, as we go down the line in years ahead, those comments for your gender will continue to diminish.
Well said, Sarah, and I have no doubt you do a great job. Looking forward to watching you, and I will give Sean, our 11 p.m. producer, your email. So
please
you guys can
please do. I look forward to hearing from him. I'll take the tough critique from him as well.
Well, he's a huge Brooklyn Nets fan, so that I can tell you. Sarah, thanks for a few minutes here on Big Board Sports.
Thanks, guys.